Moments ago, arrests outside the office of Republican Senator Pat Toomey of Pennsylvania. You can look at that video right now, the woman being dragged out. Protesters, including her, were shouting, "Toomey, please don't let me die." Toomey has been supportive of the Senate health care bill. You can see a sit-in is going on right now. Protesters are also gathering outside of Washington. A small group is protesting today outside of Senator Marco Rubio's office in Doral, Florida.
There's breaking news now. Let's go look on Capitol Hill. There have been a number of or I thought we had some videotape. There have been a number of demonstrations this afternoon. Some protests taking place inside the Republican Senator Marco Rubio's office on Capitol Hill. In addition to the Republican health care effort, outside the office of the Republican Senator Rob Portman, more arrests have just happened. Peter Ducey's there and live for us. Peter?
And Shepard, organizers of today's protest that's been going on for the last 2.5 hours or so at about a half dozen Republican senators' offices say around 40 people have been arrested so far. And a lot of what happens once they get kicked out of these offices, when they are not allowed to see the senator, is this. We've got here a handful of, I'm told that there's a doctor in there, a med student in there, but they are holding signs that say Trump care equals death, and they are just screaming at the top of their lungs, which in these old buildings with the marble-lined floors really makes a lot of noise. It was impossible for the last couple hours to be anywhere in the Russell Senate office building and not hear these protesters. And what's interesting is they're not just going after people who were on the fence, because Senator Rob Portman, of course, came out in opposition to the health care draft. And this is going to continue, it seems, because we have been seeing a lot of this, Shep, until there is something done, something voted on one way or the other.
Peter, thanks a lot. Back to you as warranted. A lot more on health care coming up in a moment.
Thank you for that. I want to bring you some live pictures of protests that are going on outside, I think these are Senator Rob Portman's office. Is that right? That's Senator Rob Portman's office. A lot of scattered protests going on. You can see people sitting there. They've got signs. There's been a lot of yelling. Let's listen in for a moment. We're going to keep an eye on that protest. We're also taking a look at this and some of the opposition that is having an impact on the Republican health care plan today. Groups like the American Medical Association, AARP, American Cancer Association, American Heart Association, thousands of voters flooding the Senate offices in person with phone calls and emails. Earlier this afternoon, protesters were arrested, this is from earlier, outside Senator Pat Toomey's office. He's a Republican of Pennsylvania, chanting, "Please, Toomey, don't let me die." There's also opposition from many rural hospitals that are already in tough shape. For them, the Senate plan could be catastrophic. Chris Jansen's been looking into all of this for us today. What are we finding?
Yeah, it's fascinating to watch these protesters, because even Republicans, when I was on Capitol Hill yesterday, admitted to me that they have been inundated with phone calls and emails. And if the Senate health care bill had passed, it would have hit hardest right in the heart of Trump country, lower income, rural voters. That CBO estimate found that over the next 10 years, $772 billion in Medicaid money would be cut. Look at what that would mean. 51% of rural residents in West Virginia are on Medicaid, according to a recent report. 47% in Alaska, 38% in Maine, 37% in Nevada.
Some new polling came out on the Republican plan to kill the Affordable Care Act today. 4 different polls showing that approval for that bill ranges from a high of 27%, which is terrible, down to a low of 12% support, which is just astonishingly inhumanly bad. 12% approval. People would rather get hit by a car. Nevertheless, the Senate says they are still trying to pass this thing, and so Washington today looked like this.
My medicine costs almost $3,000 a month. My medicine costs almost $3,000 a month. Without it, I'll go back to paralysis. Without it, I'll go back to paralysis. I might die. I might die. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. We don't want to die. We don't want to die. Shame on you. Shame on me. Shame on you.
Today in Washington was like this everywhere. About a dozen of Colorado Senator Gardner's constituents there staking out his D.C. office today. But he was just one of a pack of Republican senators who were doorstopped by protesters opposed to the Republican bill to kill the Affordable Care Act. At one point today, Capitol Hill reporters noted that every single floor in the whole Russell Senate office building had at least one protest going on all at once against the Republican senators on the health bill. Protesters sat down under a cluster of American flags outside Senator Lisa Murkowski's office. They sat down inside Senator Rob Portman's office, in the sitting area at his office. Portman's staff reportedly asked the Capitol Police to please not make any arrests of those protesters, but police nevertheless brought out the zip ties and arrested some of those people from Portman's office anyway. Same thing over at Marco Rubio's office. About a dozen people held a makeshift march in a tight Senate hallway outside his office door. 8 more people got picked up by police there and thrown out of the Capitol. Pennsylvania Senator Pat Toomey had a small human blockade sitting outside his D.C. office today. One of those protesters was arrested and dragged away by his arms. This friendly-looking group here swung by Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton's office, a lot of them from the local Indivisible chapter that calls themselves the Ozark chapter of Indivisible. That group included this young woman from Northwest Arkansas. Her name's Katie McFarland. She uses a wheelchair, as you can see. She told Senator Cotton's office staff today that the Medicaid cuts in the Republican bill would kill her. She was arrested today, her hands put up in zip ties. By the end of the day, at least 40 people were arrested at the U.S. Capitol today in protest against the Senate Republicans' health bill. Protests were outside the Senate offices, too, in considerable numbers. More than 2,000 people reportedly in the streets today protesting against the Republicans' bill.
Here, the fight over health care, and it went right to the door of Republican Senator Pat Toomey from Pennsylvania. They're chanting, "Don't kill me, kill the bill." The hallowed hallways there on Capitol Hill. These are protesters demonstrating just now at the senator's office in Washington. Senator Marco Rubio of Florida had demonstrators rally inside his office. But the question is, how much of an impact will these voices have right on the future of this bill in the Senate?
Dragged away and arrested, several protesters gathered there to voice their opposition to the health care plan. Senator Toomey helped author the bill. Yesterday, he said it's, quote, not perfect, but it is, in his words, a positive step.
Many are heading home to their districts for the holiday weekend, where they may face angry voters in scenes like this.
Senator Toomey, do not kill me! Senator Toomey, do not kill me! Senator Toomey, do not...
Protesters earlier today at congressional offices, and lawmakers have reason for concern. Look at this new poll.
In Washington, protesters have gathered outside the office of Pennsylvania Republican Senator Pat Toomey, saying, "Toomey, please don't let me die." This is live video right now. Toomey, meanwhile, has been supportive of the Senate bill. You can see those protesters are getting arrested inside the hallway of the Senate. And we're going to take you to the site of one of the other protests today, outside another key Republican's office in Florida.
Toomey, will you kill me?
Americans now taking their health care frustrations straight to their senators on Capitol Hill and back home. Today, Republicans going back to the drawing board.